All right. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning for some of us who are joining from the other side of the world. Welcome to Cyber Week 2020. This is gonna a little bit of fun, and I get we got the meet the experts deep dive Q&A. I have absolute pleasure, and just it's gonna be totally cool. I'm kind of enjoying, looking forward to this. I get to introduce Jaya. So Jaya, please once again just let everybody know who you are.
Hey guys, I'm Jaya Baloo. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer of Avast. I've done that since last year, October. So it hasn't been that long. And before that, I was the CISO at KPN. So yeah.
Awesome. And I'm just going to say it's me, and everybody will figure it all out later on if no easy way. All right. So we get to hang out for like 30 minutes and just kick back and just relax and just talk. And I think from my standpoint, I'm keeping an eye on the questions if anybody throws questions in. So just so everybody's aware of that one. But I think for me, what I'm always interested in is like people's origin story, for want of a better way of putting it. It's like, how did you get into this industry? What sparked you? What was like, oh, that's what I want to do, and that's why I want to do it. I'd love to know that if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think we actually talked about this once over some beers. But no, actually, I have a sort of like accidental story where I was, when I was really young, when I was 9 years old, I loved everything about computers, everything, completely fascinated, hooked. For Christmas, I got a Commodore 64. I was the only girl that I knew of that was interested at the time, but at the time there was also no stigma attached to it, so it wasn't weird to be a girl and interested. It was just what it was, and it, like, I don't know, I loved it. I was a very large part autodidactic, just kind of weeding in right away, and got really easily hooked. And then as like presents, birthday presents, I got an account to have like an internet connection, and I had a modem, and that was like another present. So I kept getting into it, and I think I was around 12 when I had to build a war dialer because my parents killed my CompuServe account because I think in like one month I had spent like $400, like US dollars, because I was like online chatting all the time, and I never got why people would always ask me what I was wearing. Like, that was the weirdest question.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
So odd. But anyway, and I found like so many like cool things, and like oh gosh, like, how to pick locks, and the whatchamacallit, cookbook, and
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yeah, there's
Um
good ones
it
out
was
there.
in there. It was like everything from how to build a pipe bomb to how to pick a lock.
Anarchist. Was it the Anarchist
Yeah,
cookbook?
the anarchist
That's it.
cookbook.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've got
yeah,
so many different versions of that. It's fun. They keep updating
yeah.
the darn thing every now and again. I love that book.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
so I found it online along with so much porn that I didn't even know existed. But anyway, that was what the internet was invented for. So anyway, that was kind of where I got started, and it was just a hobby, and I genuinely never thought that it would be anything I would do professionally until when I was in university in Boston. I was working at Cybersmith in Harvard Square, which was
Yeah.
like a place where they did like, they had VR games and they taught people how to use the internet. And it was like my first job where I actually got paid to teach other people things that I thought everybody knew. So yeah.
Oh, it's so much fun. The I remember the early VR stuff with the like the O2s and those things. This was it SIG and all those systems.
Yeah.
It's crazy how far that stuff has come these days. I mean, it's absolutely nuts on that, some of that stuff.
Yeah.
So here's the thought. I mean, you've been in this industry so many years as well. I mean, there have been some amazing successes. One of the things I'm always intrigued by, and we've all unfortunately tripped and fallen and stuff like that. I'm interested in some of those failures, and I'm interested in some of the lessons learned, especially for the audience, what they can pick up from it, what they can learn from it, some of that stuff. So if you've got a couple of those moments that you're happy to or happier to
Yeah,
share.
sure. I mean, okay, look, there's a whole, I mean, personal failure level. I sometimes see myself as like the Bridget Jones of everything I teach. Like
Yeah, yeah.
every, the guy, I think it's the only thing you truly own is like your mistakes, right? Isn't
Oh,
that a saying?
totally. Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, on a personal failure level, there's plenty. And the really good news is I really genuinely learned from those experiences. But like, for example, once. I reloaded a core switch because I had to update a Cisco core switch. It was a Catalyst. I don't know if you know these boxes, but it was a 6500 series Cisco
Yep.
Catalyst. Well, anyway, we were running OSPF, reloaded the damn thing, started up the second one, did the same script, reloaded that one. Yes, yes, yes. A loop is a loop is a loop is a loop is a loop. So, yes, yes. Joy, joy, joy. It was a 3 o'clock in the morning change, on the core
Yep.
infrastructure. They were,
Oh.
they were calling me reload for a week at least, or maybe longer. I don't know.
Yeah, that brings back some horrible memories as well. I just, especially the early days. It was always, I mean, I remember I was years and years ago when I was back in the UK, I got seconded to like 3Com and IBM and places like that. I remember the early days of 3Com. I mean, we were doing shit because we didn't know what else to do. And you start doing it, you're like, okay, and you start, I mean, this industry has been one of those like making shit up as we go along industries.
Yeah.
Because there are no flipping, there have been no instruction manuals for so much of the stuff that we've seen. And it kind of, to me, that's what keeps me coming back to the keyboard, and this is how I look at it. I mean, this is gray when it's not colored, let's be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And and it's like, okay, for 40 years or so, I've been messing around in this industry with breaks for various other things. And it's kind of like always one of those, what keeps you coming back? When we get up at some crazy hour of the morning, what keeps you coming back to the keyboard and stuff like that? That would be kind of a fun one to talk about.
Well, I mean, I know, there's things that I see the spark in your eye. I remember when we were in Istanbul, we were talking about, what should we do this evening? And
Yeah.
remember
Oh, yeah.
that? Yeah. So it's that kind of mischief. The fact that we keep building new technology with the same vulnerabilities that we've seen for decades. The fact that we do that it creates that twinkle, I know, in your eye, Chris, when we talk
Yep.
about fully automated smart anything. And the same thing kind of holds with me. I mean, I want stuff to work and I really want to be able to use it and enjoy it. But I know that, if we're not careful, it's going to ad hoc bring the destruction of us all. So if I can be part of helping, it not be a complete fucked up disaster, I'd rather be on that side. And that's really, and it is a lot of fun to do. Let's be honest. And it's not just I have a certain belief that at some point in time, if you do incident response, there's a big part of you that genuinely loves the stress and the chaos and the fact that you have to save the world
Yeah.
again, kind of
Yeah. We just don't
mentality.
want to admit to it all the time. It's just like, okay, why do I enjoy it? It's like presenting. To me, it's the same as presenting. I had a really good talk with somebody the other week. And I was up, for the presentation for this morning, I'm literally sitting there at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting the presentation ready. And I'm like, why am I doing this to myself? And then all of a sudden you take a step back and like, I've always done this. It's always been that last minute thing. I've been thinking about it for several weeks, but it all comes together in that last, few hours basically. And I think we thrive on it, which is not the best way to be.
Yeah. No, but I agree. This has got to be part of how we're built and how we're configured in order for making us repeat this behavior over and over again. But there's also something to be said of the industry that we work in that kind of does similar stuff, and I was reading this great thing. And by the way, like in terms of inspiration, I get massively inspired by the people that are in it, and the ones that are doing well, the in it to win it folks.
Yeah.
I get super inspired by listening to you talk, by listening to all these other people around me speak. I get more ideas, and I genuinely feel that all the good people work or have worked, at least for a bit, in InfoSec. They've done something through their career in this area, and that's why it's so much fun to work with them. And they're awesome. So I got this recent thing this morning from my former team at KPN, which was talking about how in the airline industry, and this is an industry that's also close to your heart,
Oh, yeah.
there's no such thing as pilot error. There's a series of system failures that could have then happened, but it was like, even if you have a pilot that crashes into a thing, there's still a co-pilot. There's still a mental health screening. There's
Yeah.
all the other systems check that would have preceded it, that should have gone well, that would have prevented that eventual accident or disaster from happening. We need those lessons for our industry. we need not to blame the user for anything that ever goes wrong, but try to figure out what were the other systems checks or
Yeah.
systems failures that went wrong that led us to get where we are, where we consider it, a screw up.
There's a certain airline manufacturer that unfortunately suffered two very, very significant failures of its flagship plane that dove into the ground, killing quite a number of people. I was reading a report about it yesterday. One of them they've actually settled fairly well, but the other crash that they were involved in, apparently the lawyers on behalf of the families are asking those questions. They
Yeah.
don't just want that particular airline, that particular manufacturer to go, oh, well, we had a problem here.
Yeah.
What they want to do is go back systemically and go, what failed in order for you to get to this point? And apparently the airline manufacturer doesn't want to release that. I don't think they want to admit that they've had a screwed up system for so long.
Yeah. No, why would they? I mean, this would be massively catastrophic, not only for like their current lawsuit, but for everything that preceded or will proceed this disaster with everything else. There's just be a lack of confidence. There won't be a share price increase at their next big win.
Right.
So
But that's what I like a little bit about our industry. I mean, we're not perfect, not by a long stretch. If we were, we'd be doing a lot better. But what I like about it is we do occasionally take this introspective step back. We're kind of going through one of those loops now. The whole concept of DevSecOps. You look at what Mark Miller, Sonatype, and State Farm, they're kicking ass on the stuff. They're putting like 1,000 people into the 24-hour training. And that's what I love about it is we've stepped up and we've gone, look, we can't fix this whole problem ourselves. How do we work with development? How do we work with operations effectively? There are people that are bitching and screaming about doing it, but it's something that's kind of near and dear to us. Is some of us have that mental take a step back and introspectively look across the whole thing and go, what can we do better? What can we do differently? I do like that in the industry. We do seem to do a little bit of that anyway.
So I got this sent today. I was looking it up on WhatsApp. Today, one of my former colleagues at KPN, Omer, he sent a link referring to this thing that we're talking about failures, right?
Yeah.
And he was talking about this thing. Have you heard of THERAC 25?
No.
THERE. Well, look on Wikipedia. I had never heard of it. And basically what it was a bunch of engineers were building a medical device to target radiation for patients. So it was a targeted burst, like a proton laser. So they were doing this, and what they had done is they took away a lot of the original hardware controls that are placed on these types of devices, and they replaced it all with software. Yeah. So instead of giving a normal dosage of radiation to their patients, this device, seared their patients, sometimes actually causing death with radiation therapy. And when they were, when these engineers were given these results, they refused to accept it. They said, no, it was impossible. And it's like this traditional thing of engineering overconfidence, like, no, that's impossible. I won't accept it. So instead of doing the a priori testing and the appropriate amount of validation beforehand, when they even were presented the results, they refused to accept them and then fix them timely. And it's such a clusterfuck.
We saw that with the auto industry. So go back 10, 12 years ago now so there are a bunch of folks that started, got Craig Smith. I mean, there are so many folks that have been messing around with the auto industry. I mean, you got the car hacking village that's been around for so long as well.
Love Craig Smith, by the way. He's awesome. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Him, Robert Leal, and some of those other guys that are just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And what I love about it is we actually went to Detroit and to a couple of the car makers' credits, and I'll call out GM. GM's credit, they were like, initially, they're like, you guys are a pain in the ass, but we need to listen to you. And so GM OnStar just like, well, okay, help us understand what we don't know. Help us realize this. They didn't let that whole concept about pride comes before a fall. Now go to the other people who maybe didn't listen, the Chrysler Group, and all of a sudden you realize they had to fail. They tripped over, they were exposed very, very publicly with the issues. And I think this is the one thing that frustrates the heck out of me with our industry. And how do we get ahead of it? And we always talk about doing incident response. We always talk about doing tabletop exercise. We also talk about here's all the stuff you can proactively do so you don't get your ass handed to you. But as humans, we still don't listen until something happens. And then we go, ow, what do we do about this? We've been
Yeah.
telling you for 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix that. I don't know how to fix that. I'm up for ideas on this one.
Frankly, I don't have the answer here either, because I feel like we keep taking things that are important and pushing them down the priority pole until it becomes urgent. We wait till it cannot wait anymore before we deal with it. And there's a saying in the Netherlands, which I don't know why, but all the sayings in the Netherlands seem to have something to do with either cows or birds. But this particular this particular one is that a calf has to drown before you do anything. It's about the water levels. So a calf has to drown before anyone tries to fix the problem of flooding.
Yeah.
So and it's
the same thing. It's the same darn thing. When I give talks, I always talk about as humans. As kids, we got taken in to the kitchen and go, this is hot, don't touch it. What do? We all touch the ruddy thing. Yeah, and it's like, okay, how do we change that mentality? Because to quote a very good friend of mine, Ryan Cloutier, and this was part of my talk I gave earlier, this whole analog human in the digital world. We can't make those same mistakes because the digital world goes so much faster, operates at such a different rate and speed, and the consequences are so much more, intricate. And so I'm like, how do we change? How do we educate people? How do we do something so that they start thinking that way?
So, this is a really important thing. So I know you have a daughter and I have two boys and a girl. And this is one of those things that I keep wondering, like, how do you prevent kids from repeating all of your mistakes?
Yeah.
And the behavioral change part of that is not trivial, but
Yeah.
it is, let's be honest, like, just like that reload thing, I will never do that. I will be super careful just because I had it happen. And I have
Yeah.
one of those moments pretty much, I don't know, I'm always breaking something. So I have one of those moments pretty regularly to learn from. I think it's really interesting to think about, okay, there's another way to learn, like, especially when it comes to attacks. When I was at KPN, I was firmly of the belief that we don't need to have every single telecom attack ourselves in order to be able to learn from it enough to, detect it. For example, the Mirai botnet that started with the Deutsche Telekom modems, that was a perfect example. Like, okay, do we use the modem type? How did the attack occur? Is there any proprietary use of TR69? How can we take a look at, all the stuff that happened to figure out, are we vulnerable? Do we have a problem? Can we deal with it before it becomes urgent? And I don't know that we have the same level of maturity in the other aspects of go-to-market, and I don't know that we've got that.
Yeah, not yet. I don't think we do, and we need to as well. I mean, you're in the industry that's providing the architecture for all these darn devices. I mean, the statistics are crazy, like 29, 30 billion devices or something connected by the end of this year, end of next year.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg as to what we're going to see in the next few years. It's and we're getting there, and this is the problem. We're getting there, but we're already kind of like teetering on the edge of the cliff. And I think that's the interesting one for me, is we look at security and it's like, okay, we've tried doing certain things. We've definitely not done so well at some of them. It's like, okay, where's the hope? What gives you the hope? Where are you sitting there going, okay, is it, somebody actually figures out how to do actual artificial intelligence properly so that we can actually have some second set of eyes behind us?
Yeah.
Or is it the humans? I'm interested on that one. Where's your thoughts on where we're going?
It's a bit of both. So I'm at Avast now, and one of the reasons I joined Avast was because last year, first of all, I should tell you, Chris, we should have I need a glass of something else to tell you the whole story. But the point is, I joined Avast, and the week before I joined, we found out that there was an attack already going on the week before I joined. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like it was a Chinese state actor. Anyway, and it looked like they were after signing keys. So we have about a little bit over 430 million users all across the planet.
Yeah, that's a serious chunk of users. That's a serious chunk, yeah.
Yeah, but mostly, and this is the thing, they're mostly just regular people. It's not an enterprise. It's not McAfee. It's not Kaspersky. It's for people.
It's users. It's people. It's regular human beings.
Regular human beings, yeah. So, which means that we have a different attack surface if you look at a supply chain attack, but still a considerate one in terms of total population of numbers. So that thing had kept me busy for, like pretty much still keeping me busy. But the point is that was such a significant attack that in order to detect it, a lot of the reasons that we even figured out what the heck was going on is because at Avast, they have focused already for a few years on trying to do more things with machine learning and AI. And they started hiring in Silicon Valley super, super, super smart people, really smart people to try to figure out like, how do we get beyond this just, signature-based detection to behavior-based? And how do we look at behavior basing across all of these graphs? And how do we extrapolate it on the really, really high? So they do some very cool stuff. So I do have faith that our technology will get better. But I think technology that increases beyond the pace of human comprehension is always like terrifying, because when shit goes wrong, how do we know what to fix?
Right. That's the big one. I'm giving a talk later on today about high performance clusters. And you want to talk about tech that's gone faster than we can even comprehend. And actually, the talk earlier was the same thing. So you look at the human's brain's ability and how much data it can process and how much data it just has no freaking clue about. And you're like, we're already playing catch up, and that bus it's left, it's on the way. And it's like, okay, how do we be good custodians of that technology? And I think you're right. And the other thing for me is it can't just always be about us. This is why I love the whole idea about this. So I love Cyber Week. We want to give a shout out for Cyber Week. I love the fact that when we are physically there, there's 60 plus other countries to go hang out with in the one room. It's freaking awesome. So you get to hang out and just talk to so many different people that I don't see when I come into the US conferences. I don't have that diversity, that flavor, and just from all over the globe. It's a ton of fun. Actually, that's a good one. Let's actually have a conversation. Let's pry the lid off diversity for a minute.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this, because I'm getting fed up of, middle-aged white males being at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. How do we change that, please, so that we don't keep on making the same freaking mistakes?
Blind submissions. I don't know. I honestly think like it's a bit okay. I find it highly offensive if I would ever get the diversity card, because I want to be on, my own merits, on the things that I can help about myself. That's what I want to be, right? So I genuinely think that the way that we get there is to like not, who did it? You remember Dylan Cunabiran from Hack in the Box?
Yeah.
He did a con, or I think it was Dylan. It was either Dylan or Antrich over at NullCon. So one of those boys, they tried to do blind submissions for their talks and just tried to invite. They were really, I think, proactive about asking everybody to come and submit. And then they just stripped off, gender and blah, blah, and they wound up just kind of de facto just picking the interesting talks based on interestingness and validity. And it didn't turn out to be that. It actually turned out to be a bit diverse. And like, I think Dylan's really made, even beyond that, an effort to be more inclusive and have more women. And, I think that's where I first met Katie, was at a Hack in the Box, actually, years ago, like a million years ago. But, and I think they even had a conference with an all women lineup, and it's not like they're not there.
You remember a couple of years ago when RSA completely just clueless can possibly be. And I remember that's where the women's, like the RSA women came about, because they're like, what the hell's going on? Again, to me, that would be a perfect one for a blind submission, but they don't do that. They drill down 25 different bloody layers, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's a lot on that one.
Yeah, but it's really tough. I think, honestly, like what you do, like we've spoken before about, doing stuff for girls and educating women to kind of take their place. I think that's the biggest thing, because I do think that there's a lot to be said for women helping women, and we need to way more of that. Yeah,
I think it's huge. And I think that we got the Women in Cyber Talk. I've got another one of those coming up fairly soon. And you've got kids, it's the same thing. I look at my daughter, and I know she doesn't want to go into this industry, but whatever she's going into, my job as the parent is to break those down barriers, to both break the barriers down for her and arm her to go, hey, you do whatever the hell you want to do. Don't ever let anybody tell you can't do something.
Yeah. And I have two boys that are still somehow, despite us being really, who are still kind of like, and they still make these kind of, they're 14, they still kind of make these macho jokes. I don't know how to get rid of it. We can't figure that one out. I can, yeah.
Teach the daughter. My daughter has figured out. We were we talking about the other day. She did a talk. I was giving a talk at a military conference a couple of years ago, and her and a bunch of her friends had figured out how to take over the country through no
Awesome.
military action. Until and I'm like, yes. I ended up giving the talk to a bunch of generals, and they're like, oh yeah, she get it. I'm like, yep, that's. And they're like, she's more dangerous than you, and I'm like, perfect. That's exactly what I need out of her. Oh man. All right. So I guess some thoughts on this one. And I mean, we've kind of talked around a whole bunch of different things, but what I'd love, again, from the cyber perspective and also from this thing, for me, it's what can we do? I mean, we've been in this industry more years than I care to admit sometimes. What can we do to help others and help businesses and give the right message out to people? I'm interested in your
Yeah,
thoughts on
well, I think it depends on what they need, right? I mean, not everyone needs a sort of blanket cybersecurity person to come by and help them. Let's be honest.
that.
I think the first and fundamental thing is like people don't always know from a very basic point of view how to use the tools at their disposal. They don't even know they're at their disposal. So I think in general, we have a fundamental problem of inaccessibility to a large percentage of our population when it comes to like just using like the basic stuff that's out there, just regular tools, like for your life, for banking, for interaction with your government, for interacting socially. We don't know what the hell is going on. And you see the impact. Everyone who stops me at a party, I don't know about you, but they're all asking me about the Netflix show, the Social Network.
Yeah.
Uh, and,
Yeah. Is it
and
true? Is it a
oh
docudrama?
my
Like, oh,
God,
they were nice. They were nice. They didn't tell you most of
no,
what's going on, but that's America.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I watch it and all these people are like, I got off of social media. I did not have any idea. And this lack of knowledge, the fact that they're all stopping everyone at the party to talk about this is the problem. This is the real problem. So before we equip them with anything cybersecurity related, like they first need to like get past the divide of ignorance about the basic stuff that they're using. And then we can help them because honestly, I want more, Chris. I don't want less. I want, okay, so this is a project. And I'm trying to figure out why can't I fly this thing remotely? So I found out that you can get like tools and put in a SIM but you can't get it, without line of sight to fly around your house and do like a surveillance sweep. And there's
Yeah.
like, yeah, there's a company that just came out of stealth that's called Sunflower Labs, and they have this thing called the Hive to do this, but it's not there yet, and it's too big and bulky. I just want a little thing, fly, phone,
Did you see,
4G, bye bye.
speaking of crazy things flying around, did you see that Nest has released something new? Their little drone, the flying. Oh yeah, I'm so gonna have fun with that thing. That is going to go after people right between the eyes. I'm so
Nest,
gonna release.
okay, Google Nest is flying drone.
Google Nest is basically building indoor flying drones. Yeah, I mean,
But do they need visual line of sight? You need visual line of sight?
no, from my understanding. Yeah, I'm still gonna have fun with this thing. I'm going
Yeah.
to be releasing some code on how to actually, yeah, we'll be taking out cats, dogs, humans, all sorts of things in about the first 10 minutes. So here's a question. I mean, we're wrapping up. We've got about a minute and a half left
Yeah.
on this one. Your position you have is absolutely, I mean, what I'm really intrigued about is I'm assuming, are reporting up to the board level, across the peer groups, and within your organization. Talk to me quickly about the communication, how you're communicating with them, language communication, general communication. I'm really interested in that one because we don't seem to do a good job of that very often.
Yeah, I think that's true. And very often I report to the CEO of the company, Ondrej Volček, and I have a board reporting capability. So for every board meeting, I have to have a board report. It goes to the board. And I have to tell you that it's not always easy. So the board always struggles with two things. Regardless of whether I give them good news or bad news, they have difficulty, I think in general, every board that I've ever spoken to, verifying not the veracity of the claims that I'm making, but the ability to do okay, is this like overly positive or overly negative? How do I know if this is right?
Yeah.
And we, I think in general, right, we have a difficulty with a board representation other than someone with a finance background or an HR background, because boards feel innately secure when they talk about these subjects because they have an opinion and they have stuff. And I think we need to get better at putting it in financial terms, relevant to business goals, and then expressing our security opinion rather than the other way around.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think we're about to run out of time in a second. Time to say goodbye. I'm getting this little message across the top. All right. We could keep this going forever, and it's just been freaking amazing. Jaya, thank you so very, very much. Hugely appreciated. Thanks to everybody at Cyber Week for putting this on. Thanks to everybody for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully we'll see everybody next year or two.